when it's the system itself that is causing the injustice.
Now it's going.
Recently, my family has experienced firsthand the hopelessness and despair that can accompany a wrongful conviction. The reason I was asked to come and speak with you today is to tell you the story of my brother, First Lieutenant Michael Behenna, a U.S. Army Ranger. Michael served in Iraq as an infantry soldier and a platoon leader. He was responsible for patrolling an area called Al Butoma. In Michael's area of operations, he was responsible for helping to construct a civil infrastructure by working cooperatively with local leaders. Also, my brother was the front line in an ongoing struggle to root out the remaining insurgency, which without a doubt still sought the death of our American soldiers. On April 21st, 2008, Michael experienced firsthand the horrors of war when his platoon was attacked by an IED. This explosion killed 2 of Michael's soldiers, 2 of his closest friends. A week after the attack, Michael received an intelligence report stating the names of individuals who were involved with this attack. With the help of local leaders, Michael was able to identify and find one of the individuals named in the report. And on May 5th, 2008, Michael detained known terrorist and Al-Qaeda member Ali Mansour. Ali Mansour was transferred to Forward Operating Base Summerall to be questioned by the U.S. Army. Ali Mansour was in custody for 10 days, during which 4 separate interviews were conducted. The results of these interrogations were clear. Ali Mansour was found to be deceptive and elusive, and lying about his connections with the local insurgency. However, even with these reports, the Army did not feel they had enough information to detain him. So the next day, my brother was ordered to take this individual home. At that point, Michael faced a weighty moral choice. On the one hand, do I follow my orders? Do I do as I am told, and do I return this individual to his home? Knowing that the realistic consequence of this action would be that the next day, or a week later, or a month later, this individual would attack my platoon again, causing the death of more of my soldiers. Or do I take another path? Do I try one last time to question this individual about who his leaders were, where they were located, and who was responsible for financing these attacks, with the hope that this information could save the lives of members of Michael's platoon? My brother has since told me that what motivated his decision were the lives of his troops. He wanted to make sure that before any additional lives were lost, he would do everything within his power to protect his men. Regardless of whether this decision was right or wrong, Michael's mind was made up. And on May 15, 2008, he took Ali Mansour to a culvert near Al Butoma to be questioned. Accompanying my brother to this interrogation was Michael's translator, so that Michael could get the information he needed. Tragically, this day did not turn out how my brother had intended. This is because while the interrogation was taking place, Michael turned his head, just for a moment, to better understand the words being translated by his interpreter. And as he did, Michael heard a rock smack the back wall behind his head. And as he turned back to face Ali Mansour, this individual was standing and reaching for Michael's gun. Michael instinctively fired 2 shots and killed Ali Mansour. This fateful day has fundamentally changed the course of my brother's life, because soon after he was charged with premeditated murder. The government's theory during trial was that this was simply an execution, where this individual was seated on a rock and shot in the head at close range. However, the problem with this theory is that it was completely and utterly contradicted by the forensic evidence at the crime scene. In fact, every crime scene expert that was hired to consult on this case, for both the prosecution and for the defense, came to the conclusion that Ali Mansour, based on the blood spatter, the bullet trajectory, the entry and exit wounds, the way the body fell, Ali Mansour had to have been standing with his arms outstretched at the time the 2 shots were fired. 2 crime scene experts testified to this effect on my brother's behalf at trial. However, the prosecution hired their own expert. But to my family's surprise, Dr. McDonald, the prosecution's expert, was never called to testify at trial. Unfortunately, the day after Michael was convicted of murder, my family learned the reason Dr. McDonald was not called to testify. Dr. McDonald was not called to testify because he agreed with my brother about what took place that day. In fact, we have since found out that during the week of the trial, Dr. McDonald performed a private demonstration for the prosecution, in which he stated that the only logical conclusion, based on the forensic evidence in this case, is that Ali Mansour had to have been standing with his arms outstretched at the time the two shots were fired. This testimony would have completely confirmed my brother's innocence and been crucial to his case. Not only would this testimony have confirmed and corroborated my brother's claim of self-defense, but it would have completely refuted the prosecution's claim that this was simply an execution. Unfortunately, the day after this demonstration was performed, the government prosecutors determined that Dr. McDonald's services were no longer needed, and he was sent home by the government prosecutors. The Supreme Court has determined in Brady versus Maryland that the Constitution requires all government prosecutors to turn over all evidence or information that is considered favorable to the defense. However, in complete disregard of the law, the government prosecutors in this case did the exact opposite. Not only did they not turn over the information that was favorable to Michael's case, they hid this evidence by sending the only witness home so he could not testify. What makes matters even worse is that during closing argument, the prosecution stated to the jury that the reason they did not call any expert testimony to present their case at trial was because Michael's story was so unreasonable, so impossible that it did not need to be rebutted. The government made these claims knowing that just 2 days before, their own expert had told them that the forensic evidence only supported a conclusion that my brother acted in self-defense. Because of this abuse by government prosecutors, who are sworn to uphold the law, my brother's been sentenced to 25 years in prison. 25 years for defending himself and his men from a known member of Al-Qaeda in Iraq. This brings us back to the question that we started with. What protection do we have as citizens when the people who are sworn to uphold our justice system violate their duties? The clear answer is none. That is why we must continue to fight to improve our justice system, so that in the future our legal system will once again be an institution we are proud of, not something that we fear. We must continue to fight so that we ensure that a prosecution is first and foremost a search for the truth and not a search for a conviction. Again, I would like to thank you for allowing me to come speak with you today. And I would like to encourage you that if you have any additional interest in learning more about my brother's story, you can go to www.defendmichael.com. This is a website we have dedicated to telling his story and building support for his cause. Thank you.